Gentlemen, we are back. And what's happening, wrestling fans? Intermat Wrestling Podcast is back. It's been a little bit. We took a couple more extra days just to decompress from the end of the wrestling season, as well as all the bullshit that has happened in like 3 days since the final whistle at NCAAs. It was a crazy season. It was a pretty awesome NCAAs. The unthinkable happened at heavyweight, which we'll get into. But before we even get into the wrestling, let's talk some of the rumors. We've got a lot of stuff happening with people talking about steroids. If you need any entertainment, go look at the Bo Nickel, Dylan Palacio conversation on Twitter. Um,
Unless he has you blocked for making fun of how he spells.
yeah, unless he
Yeah,
has you blocked.
I'm
But then
blocked.
we also we also have the transfer portal going absolutely crazy. So let's start with the steroid accusations in all of it. And there's been a lot of really vocal people out there. Not so much us. That is the one thing that like we're pretty, back off of things like that. I tend to be, honestly. I try not
Holmes
to
is on
get
steroids.
I try not, if I was, I would not hide it one bit. You would know. You would certainly know. Um,
I
but
hear
like
it makes you lose your hair.
yeah, yeah,
But
it
I
does, right? I honestly try not to get into those types of controversies and stuff like that on Twitter. However, from looking at all the things that are going on, it's really funny how people are like, um, he didn't say like if we're gonna make accusations of recruiting violations or we're gonna make accusations of this offer or transfer portal this or this accusation about steroids, then we should put names out there. Let's name names. But then in the same breath, we're allowing everyone else to say, well, he's obviously insinuating Penn State. It's like, okay, well, either he's naming names and he doesn't say a name or whatever else, or he's truly insinuating Penn State, and we're all going to come to that conclusion. That was the funny thing for me is like in the and Piles was the person that was doing this. To be completely honest, he said he doesn't name any names. Like if you're gonna name, so if you're gonna put this out there, like name names, but then somebody else said somebody tweeted and said he's just taking his chance to take a shot at PSU, and Piles quote tweeted it and said exactly, and I'm like, well, wait a second. If he didn't say any names, then how is he taking a shot at PSU? And I understand, like, I'm not naive. I can read between the lines of things, but we can't talk out of both sides of our mouths and say he needs to name names, but then we're allowing insinuation on the other hand, no matter how obvious we feel the insinuation is. So that was the crazy thing for me. And, like I said, I try not to get in the muck and in the mud on all of these different situations and just like read more than I act on a lot of this stuff. I try to just keep it even keel. But that was one of the things as we're now sitting here on the show where I'm like, again, we can't talk out of both sides of our mouths on this. Either he's insinuating and we know who he's talking about, and he's taking a shot at Penn State, or he's not naming names. So we shouldn't insinuate that he is saying that somebody is on steroids. So that was the wild part for me. And then, a lot of Penn State wrestlers are getting defensive about it, and people are saying this and people are saying that. As I said, Bo Nickel and Dylan Palacio going back and forth on Twitter. And I mean, if not for nothing, it's entertaining to watch these guys go back and forth and talk shit and whatever else. Um, but like, I do think, bottom line, that it is reckless to make an insinuation like that. Um, that's not something that you want to do. I won't say that it's playing sour grapes, but I will say that it is just a reckless statement to make without proof of all of these things happening. So, with that, I turn it over to you guys. What were your thoughts on the interview? What are your thoughts on everything that is swirling around Twitter? How do you guys feel about the accusations and just everything that is kind of going around right now?
Well, I don't even think that was the craziest part of the interview. I think I was in a coma a month ago.
Yeah, that was
What
pretty
the
wild
fuck was
too.
that? I
for
mean,
3 days.
so yeah. So as someone who's currently going through some stuff like that, that's baffling to me. I'm not even supposed to lift weights. I can't imagine wrestling an NCAA tournament right now.
Yeah.
Uh, as far as this the steroids go, I mean, people are on steroids. It's not a secret. People get suspended for it. We've had multiple athletes suspended for it in the last couple of years. If you're familiar with the programs, it's not super surprising. But to think that he wasn't insinuating about the person who just came off the mat with, I think is kind of silly. I don't think it was a random statement.
Yeah.
His thought process was scattered, so maybe it was, but it certainly seemed targeted. And the immediate jump to defense by all the Penn State guys is interesting.
Yeah. And I will pause and go back. We are having drinks tonight. We will explain a little bit more later
Cheers,
as
gentlemen.
to why we were all drinking whiskey out of fancy glasses and fancy cups.
And this,
And a thermos.
I don't
But
I don't have fancy cups. I have
yeah,
children that break things.
you know, if you do see the brown colored drink in any of the glasses or whatever, yes, we are having a bit of whiskey, and we will tell you guys why towards the end of the show. But yeah, I do think that it is naive to think that no one is on any performance enhancer, right? I think that's the thing, is like the wildest part about this, not wildest, but like the funny part for me is how we have separated PEDs and steroids, which is like even you know, just like really funny, because we remember, I mean, most of us remember the steroid era of baseball, to the
It was
point where it's
awesome.
just like, you
Yeah.
know,
Bring it
like,
back.
right, like Barry Bonds is on steroids. This is the thing. Like, look at the size of his head. Like, he's gotten this big. He's been on steroids, and then it changed to PEDs, which is just a different term for steroids. But like, I saw somebody saying, you know, maybe it's not just steroids, but it's a performance enhancer, and it's like, well, I mean, you're splitting hairs here. So performance
Also, we're
enhancers,
probably not
steroids,
thinking like heavy duty anabolic steroids where we're
Ex-
adding a bunch of bulk in a sport that needs weight cutting and weight management.
exactly. Everybody
Like
was
think Lance
steering.
Armstrong.
Yeah, everybody was steering into, well, none of these Penn State guys are absolutely jacked, and it's like, you know, that steroids just don't make you into like the Incredible Hulk, right? Like it's not what these things do. But I feel like there's just like a lot of naivety about what these people think these things do and how performance enhancing drugs work, and what, like, because everyone is going to think steroids are going to turn, if he is insinuating that it was Kasich, that it's going to turn Kasich into from a 57 pounder into a 97 pounder. And it's like, guys, it's not what all of these things do. And, you know, again, to even insinuate that he is on steroids without any evidence, without any proof, it is very reckless. And I don't like that happened, right? But it happened, and now everybody's talking about it, and everyone is going to have their takes on it. But like, it's just been very interesting to observe it from the outside and not want to jump into the conversation. Kevin, Austin, anything?
Austin competed D1, so I would like to understand the process of like
If that's what you
testing
call it, yeah.
and, and how that works. I mean, like, I imagine you were tested weekly, you know, like how did this
With
this
these
work?
guys, yeah.
You know?
No, I mean, I got tested. I got tested once in college, and
I failed.
it was, and allegedly, two kids. I don't know what they test for. Allegedly, two kids that took it with me smoked weed the night before and passed. So I don't know what if they're testing for performance enhancing drugs only, or if like they don't even count weed at that point. You know what I mean?
Name
But
names,
it is-
Austin. No, I'm kidding.
it is supposed to be randomized, you know, and I don't know. And like, for instance, I coached at a D2 school, and athletic department was mandatory doing drug testing for people, which I don't think lasted too long. But yeah, so that like, so it, obviously different schools have different policies, but yeah,
Drug testing's expensive.
I don't think there's as much
Mhm.
testing going on as people would assume there is either. At least not in my day. Maybe things changed.
I wanted to get your opinion because I literally just asked my buddy as well, and he texted back and he said, I think every school would have a certain number of athletes randomly tested and random across all sports.
Mm-hmm.
So this school might have 10 athletes tested, but they could be from any sport.
Yeah.
So essentially, he said, I feel like 2 wrestlers in the 7 years that he was there, like, were tested. And again, he's not specifying if it was for one thing or another, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I guess part of me likes to think that there's a little bit more controlled and consistency around that, but I don't know how much that would cost, and across the NCAA and everything like that. I mean, it's not like that's a for-profit organization. They can't afford to, have a compliance department that actually holds people accountable. They just need to find what you're doing wrong, and hold you accountable. So anyway, but I don't know. I guess my point is, let me be specific. I take everything that Shapiro says with a grain of salt, and I think that that's kind of fair at this point. And I certainly hope for nothing but the best for him and his situation, whatever that might be. And he's an incredible competitor, but it is what it is. I also think that I've heard allegations of other people or other programs taking performance enhancing drugs too. I can say that those allegations have absolutely had no effect on the mat performance that I can tell. And so
Is it Michigan State?
it was
Fire up chips.
These allegations did not come from Michigan that I will declare. But no, all I know is that it is what it is. It's a sport that's not based entirely on physical strength. I mean, so much of this sport, and the reason, we can go back and forth and all over, up and down. Everybody talks about the sport, talks about how much of it is mental and between the ears and technique and all those other pieces, and that's the truth. That's why we talk about it and love it. And so,
yeah. I mean, testing is expensive. It is not easy to do, and I will. The experience that I had with NCAA testing. And I was never tested in college, and I played Division III football. However,
We can tell.
when you make the playoffs, so I can remember when I was in college and we made the playoffs, and I played with guys that were on steroids, and they were taking them all year because it's Division III. Nobody's paying attention until the ESPN cameras are around, and that's when the NCAA has the integrity of the sport. And when that happened was when certain teammates of mine were drinking a hell of a lot of cranberry juice and water and, carrying around gallons of it around campus, because when you hit the playoffs is when you get tested. And as much as they say that it's random, they're watching the game and they're like, that guy's having a good game, to the point where our kicker, who used to be a linebacker, absolutely killed a returner and was tested that game. It is not random, people. It is, as much as they want you to think that it is. But the statements are reckless. I do not think that it is good to put stuff like that out. I won't say that it's bad for the sport. I think everybody loves to. I think when it comes to wrestling, everybody loves those phrases. This is good for the sport. This is bad for the sport.
Or this will grow the sport.
Yeah, just stop with those at this point, honestly. And I say that because everybody's doing everything that they can for the good of the sport, right? Everybody wants the spotlight on wrestling. Everybody wants, more people talking about it. Hell, the amount of media attention that this NCAAs has gotten, from Fox News to Ariel Helwani to, you name it, has
Probably
been
just because I was there.
New York.
New York Post was really excited about the tall girl with the short guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Short
Like everyone was all over this NCAAs, and it showed in the ratings being, what was it, 72% higher year over year on the finals night. So things are happening in the sport, and there's more parity, and it's awesome. And I love it, honestly.
Yeah, I had people at work who I don't really talk to all that often say, "Hey, did you see the wrestling this weekend?" And it's like,
Mhm.
I didn't know you were a fan. He goes, I tuned in. I heard about the Olympic guy, and I saw the upset. It was really awesome. I was like, yeah, I was there. It was freaking electric, and just started talking to some people. hey man, start watching more. See if that works for you. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think, there's a lot of, and I get wrapped up in it too, where I'm listening to Rock or I'm listening to Sean, and Rock does it more where he talks to the brand new fan when he's doing commentary. And I'm like, we don't have that many of them, but I feel like this year is probably an outlier year where we had the storylines, we had the build up, we had all the fanfare, you know, Robbie, I think that your tweet about, whether it not being political or not, but like Trump being there, it did turn things into maybe something that you wanted or something that you hated, right? But it turned you into watching the wrestling. So no matter how you do vote, him being there did put more eyes on the tournament. It just did.
Can I clarify my point? Because
Always.
No,
I was
we're
called all
moving
sorts of
past
fun
that.
things.
Oh
All
yeah.
sorts of fun things.
You invited the boogeyman into your house
Yeah.
on that one.
So my whole contention and what we were told initially was that it wasn't going to have as much fanfare. He wasn't going to interact with the wrestlers. Um, so my contention was I would like to have seen him in a suite, kind of like they had at the Super Bowl. So he's there, still gets the attention, still gets to watch, but the focus remains on the wrestlers, and that was the point I was trying to make.
Mhm.
But I'm a libtard cuck, all sorts of fun things because I had
Because you wanted to
opinion.
focus on the wrestlers
Yeah,
at the
how
NCAA
dare I
Wrestling
focus on
Championship.
those 20 wrestlers who have worked their ass off for the last 22 years. What an asshole I am.
I'd like to
Uh,
understand how you get from that tweet to cuck.
if
the
I
path.
understood a lot of things,
It's a
it's
long and winding
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
nope. That's pretty much a straight line.
It is
To be
straight
honest.
line.
It's-
Very it
yeah.
is very interesting. And I think so with I had the chance to have dinner with a guy that was supposed to be in the suite with him in Tulsa. Um and the guy that I was having dinner with, this was months and months and months ago. Maybe it's actually over a year ago at this point. Had said that the plan in Tulsa was for Trump to walk in and do, wave and everything else, and then sit Matt side where he sat in Tulsa for like one or two matches, and then head up to a suite. But after seeing, and obviously at this point it's campaign trail and everything else, seeing the fanfare and seeing how he got attention after literally every match, he wanted to stay in the seats that he was in. So, and they were like, hey, with the security of moving him and everything else, we're going to keep him here. So I feel like that set the precedent of where he was going to be in Philly. And that's what changed everything. What I didn't like about his entrance is because they, being at home and watching, they cut off Carter Starachi's interview. It's their first 5-time champ ever, and they
Yeah.
literally just like cut the audio.
Stupid timing.
And it
Yeah.
was just bad
That was
timing,
tough.
right?
That was
I don't
tough.
put that on anybody but ESPN that did that. And who knows? Maybe he was told not to go, and he was like, "No, I'm going." I don't know, but the only onus I could really put it on is ESPN for cutting to that. Instead of allowing Carter to have his moment that he rightfully deserved. I don't think that it affected Carter at all. I think it was more of a me and other fans that were like, what the hell? We wanted to hear from our only 5-time champ. We don't want, the one and only, that he's probably going to be the only person ever that is ever going to accomplish that feat. So cutting him off is for me what sucked.
Especially since they chose to start the night at 84 for
Exactly.
his history,
Right.
and then they cut his
Right.
interview off. Like, what are we doing here?
And with the
Yeah.
explanation that we got, it was about giving him his flowers, right? And giving
Mhm.
them
Yeah.
the lead up and giving them the platform. So that was completely antithetical of them doing that. So yeah,
That sounds like a production issue.
exactly.
That's
Exactly. So, like I said, no matter how you feel about the political side of it, sports have been political forever. I just feel like now it's even more so in your face because there's even more overlap into a lot of these things. And obviously with Mark Wayne Mullen and Jim Jordan being people that are of the wrestling community, you're going to get that as well. So, I don't really care whether Trump is there or not. I will say that it did bring more eyes to the tournament and everything else, but I just didn't like that they cut off Carter's interview to turn to that. But that's not a I hate Trump thing. That's a what the hell are you doing production wise? You guys should have had all this shit sorted out beforehand so that you knew what the timing was. As somebody who has been in production meetings quite a bit, I know that you can time those things out and plan them a hell of a lot better than that.
I would say after the fact, it's opened up a lot of avenues of coverage that haven't previously been here, having guys interviewed on Fox, having guys, you know, on channels they wouldn't otherwise normally be featured on. So, I mean, more eyeballs is always good. And if we grab some new fans because of it, fantastic. But I mean, my point always remains the same. Like I want to focus on the guys in the middle of the mat. I would rather see them celebrate with their coaches and their teammates and their families than anybody. Because that's who they've gone through it with.
Yeah, exactly. The people that have been there should be the ones that they want to run to and celebrate with. And, you know, you can worry about the rest of that stuff later. Right. But yeah.
And be pried away from by Quint.
Yeah.
To ask pressing questions about equestrians.
Yeah. We're going to stay away from
How
that.
tall is your horse?
Yeah. We move from that to the transfer portal. Before we even get to the wrestling, I know transfer portal right now is a hot.
It's been pretty
topic.
boring.
It has been the most boring transfer portal ever. Like, I wish I could have the last 3.5 days back because like nothing has happened. Teams are going to look so much different next year. Robbie needs a refill on the whiskey.
True.
Teams are going to look so much different next year with just the amount of guys that entered the transfer portal today. The amount of people that came out and said, new update. Like it was like a stock ticker. It was ridiculous how many people were going into the transfer portal. So it was certainly fascinating. See, we got a really cool glass there. Look at that.
See, it's a jar.
Yeah, but that's
all I got.
That's Virginia on
It's
brand
see-through.
right there.
Little ball jar.
Lucky it's not moonshine. It's some Franklin County action in here.
Moonshiners, awesome show, by the way. I used to love watching that. But the transfer portal, seriously, it has been a revolving door. Every single hour, we were getting a new update and a new top level guy that was back in the transfer portal, or in the transfer portal for the first time, right? So,
or back for that matter.
Again, or back. Who was a guy or guys that you guys were not expecting to end up in the transfer portal in the last 3-4 days?
Jordan Williams.
The two Little Rock guys were my answers. Yeah. Bailey and Williams.
That one kind of hurt me, to be completely honest. Kind of hurt a little bit, because it was like after, and Kevin can attest to this. We were in those tunnels last year when Nasir Bailey and Stephen Little were doing as well as they were, and heard so much talk about, I wonder where those guys are going to be at next year. Somebody's going to definitely be throwing it back at them. And they stayed, and it gave me so much faith of what they were creating in Arkansas. And then this year, just like gone. So, yeah. But give me some other guys. I'm going to stop talking. I realize I'm talking a lot. What are some of the?
You're not supposed to do that.
I'm not supposed to do that. I'm a little excited about all the things that have been happening. Give me some of the guys. What have you guys seen? Who have you guys been kind of shocked by or your head scratched when you saw them enter the transfer portal?
The one that stood out to me was Lachlan.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because he's looking for RTC opportunities, and those aren't as abundant right now in Chapel Hill as he would like, and he doesn't have the training partners that he would like freestyle wise. So I wasn't expecting that, but I'm not, looking at it now, it's not super surprising. I certainly wasn't expecting it because he's got a great relationship with Tony.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a lot of success there. So
Tony, you're close.
it's certainly not one that off the top of my head that would have been on my list of guys I would expect, but he's looking for a better opportunity for himself in the next phase. So that one I guess makes sense to me.
That one was shocking to me, just to bounce off that one too. And everything you said makes sense. Where I'm surprised is, and I was kind of looking at the results in the tournament and the brackets and everything, and I was like, there's not like a loss in here that's super shocking. You know what I mean? Like he beat most of the guys he was supposed to beat. He lost to some of the guys that he, on paper was supposed to lose to. So I don't know, man. That one really surprised me. If it is truly RTC based, then it makes sense. There's other RTCs out there that maybe have a more international approach, we'll say, right? But I don't know. There was a lot of guys. The biggest thing that didn't surprise me, there's a lot of guys on teams who essentially are just in like bulk situations where they're like kind of screwed,
Yeah.
And so like I totally get a Facundo making a change, even a Swiderski making a change. I get, like that kind of makes sense. There's a lot of guys around that weight, especially with Pinheiro dropping down and whatever Ekamendi is doing there. We'll kind of see how that turns out. But
Does he have more eligibility?
Yeah.
It's like 40.
If
I'm 39, then he's not 40.
Yeah. he might also
early
get
30s.
He might also get a medical this year for whatever happened. It's
right.
I don't think it's out of the cards, honestly.
The ones that are surprising too, it's like, a Cody Chittum. Like, dude, you were in the lineup. You were the guy. You just didn't do it. Like, I don't know what else to. It's not like he doesn't have good coaches around his weight, right? Like, it's exactly what he has.
Works with Metcalf
and St. John.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what do you want? Where are you going to go? So, I don't know. I guess I answered my own question to myself out loud as I talked through it.
Yeah, and then kind of piggyback off Claunch's point. A lot of these guys, some of them were like, yeah, makes sense. They're in a tough spot. Okay. And some of these guys I look at and, they're round of 12, round of 16 guys. And are they leaving because they feel like they can't get it done? Where it's like, hey, one takedown could change your season and you're on the podium, or, one stall call goes another way. Like, you guys are freaking close being around a 12, being around a 16 guy. So I think a lot of it has to do with maybe NIL money. It's like, hey, I'm not getting what I want to get paid here. I'm not a superstar, but I can make more going here and get also better workout partners, be in the lineup as well. So I'm just curious how much of a factor that has in it. If NIL wasn't a thing, how many of these guys would still be in the transfer portal?
The thing I'm worried about is that every year, or every generation, I should say, right? Like, looks at the next generation as like, those people are weaker than we were, right? It's video games rotting their brain, or that's the reason they're not mentally tough. It's just, that's how old people work. Like, we heard it when we were kids, we were told that, now we're going to say it to them. But
we're correct.
But it's true this time.
It's true. Yeah. It's just really tough to sit there and be like, isn't so much of this sport like the fighting through the adversity, right? Like, think about, and maybe it's different when you go to a Northwestern, but you got a Trevor Chumbley who sat there behind Ryan Deacon for years and years and years and battled and was fighting in the Big Ten and was, needed an at-large just to get into the tournament this year, and then goes out there and places fourth.
I don't want to talk about that.
And fair. But hey, at least Hippo's got another couple years left, right? And he won't run into Chumbley again. That's good. So
Talk about steroids. That Chumley dude's huge, by the way. Not accusing
no allegations.
Him,
he's just enormous.
Speaking of steroids, Trevor Chumbley, huh? No.
People, these are just jokes. We're not insinuating anything.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone reading the transcript is going to take all this very, very poorly.
Right.
But no, I mean, like, it's all like, I don't know. it's so hard to sit here and be super excited about the value of what you get from it while also watching people seemingly quit. Now, I understand too that there's different situations, right? Whether people's personal financial situations might be different from another, right? And that makes sense. I saw a tweet out there, which I retweeted from Jacob Casper, about like seeing what your market value is. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I also think that there's probably a better way than necessarily publicly throwing yourself into the portal. All of this becomes real public real fast, regardless of who has direct access to it, it comes out pretty much immediately, right? So I don't know, man. I feel like the grass is greener on the other side theory is certainly something that we've all heard, but I think there's something to be said with having open dialogue and conversations internally with your coaches and your staff about understanding how to feed your garden at the same time, right? And figuring out what we need to do, what the long-term plan looks like. If you're stuck behind somebody, I get it. We saw McGonigal make a change and he went out there and what did he place? 6th, 5th? That was a good change for him. He needed to make it. He wasn't going to have a chance otherwise. Well, I guess they're this year.
Well, it turns out he would have, but
yeah, it turns out he would have, but hindsight's 2020. But you get my point. Like, it's a complicated, complex issue. It's not just one thing versus another thing. It's just, I can also say that and say I don't like it. I hate it. And I very much like the fact that there are programs and teams out there. You think of your Army West Point, your Navies, your Princetons, your Harvards. There's these programs that, like, to their benefit, don't have to dick around with this shit at all. They offer the best product as far as like what they're going to graduate into. They don't have to deal with it. People aren't transferring in there because they can't. Good situation to be in.
The caveat to that, though, is like if you look at Columbia and look at the fact they had 11 guys who were current or former Columbia wrestlers who were in the tournament, and they had to go in the portal because that was their only option with the way it worked out with Ivy League and all that. So there's certainly a time and place for it, and there's a benefit to it. But like the mass exodus that we're seeing from some super talented guys, it certainly makes you question the bigger picture. And how long are these big money values going to be up there that we hear for transfers? Is it sustainable at all, even for another year, with the amount of money that some of these guys are getting, especially as we shift to, with revenue sharing and smaller rosters and having to shift funding from RTCs to NIL. And like, there's so many variables at play right now that it's hard to feel like it's a comfortable time to test that market, at least from my perspective.
This is the window with which to test it. There's still no rules. There's still no like guardrails that like anyone's really paying attention to. Like,
yeah, next year it gets way tougher because
there's going to be,
there's no more national letter of intent. It's going to switch to rev share, so you're not essentially signing a contract for your scholarship and then signing to go to that school and anything. Like, it is most likely going to be one contract, and it will include your rev share. It will include your NIL. Like, all of these different things will be wrapped into one. So if
Like, they're going to have to hire a lot more accountants.
They're going to have to hire a lot more of everything because it's going to change a lot, especially at the Michigans or the Oklahoma States or the Penn States, where they're big football schools. That's what you ultimately have to worry about. Now, I know, Campbell and Cleveland State and, these schools are trying to say that they're going to opt into rev share, which is absolute bullshit. But you have these really big schools that are going to be diving into rev share when it comes to their football teams and figuring out how to divvy up all this money. And it is certainly going to be the schools that are in the Big Ten, the schools that are in the SEC, even though, or in the Big 12 or whatever else. Like, we don't have an SEC in wrestling, but there certainly are some schools that fall under that when it comes to sharing a conference. So things are going to be changing on that money side. And Clance, you're right. This is the time to figure that out, because in the next year or so, it's going to change, and it's going to change really, really fast. And, more guys are going to have those conversations like Alirez had, where he, literally said, I want to figure out what my market value is and what kind of money I can get. Right. So like those, but that was a completely different conversation that he had with Troy Nickerson than all these other guys are most likely having, where Jordan Williams is posting a thank you post, right? And I'm leaving, and Nasir Bailey, same thing.
It
You're
seems like a
seeing,
lot of doors are slammed immediately, and it's not even
yeah,
an option to stay.
it's a I appreciate everything you did, I'm out of here kind of a thing now. So we're certainly going to see like what happens there. I might send Chittum's dad a text, because I'm kind of close with him, and can be like, hey, what's he looking for, right? Like what's happening there? Because I was surprised with that, but then you know hearing about TJ Stewart and Facundo, you probably knew was coming. Swiderski
Surprised
probably
didn't
knew was
happen a year
coming.
ago.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're exactly right on that. I was very surprised that Facundo was still on Penn State's roster after last year. But I feel like he came in wanting to wrestle at Penn State and was in the lineup at least one time, was an NCAA qualifier, didn't pan out, and figured he could get back into the lineup by dropping a weight class or two. And it didn't pan out there either. So you got to figure out where you're going to end up going. Obviously, a lot of people are pointing towards Oklahoma State for him to make that transition to, with David Taylor being there and him being comfortable with it. But we'll certainly see. But no, I mean, it literally has been so wild to see all these different guys jumping into the transfer portal and ultimately leaving their school.
Do you
Not so
think
shocked.
Bailey and Williams are leaving because they wanted a better compliance department?
Maybe.
Probably had something to do with it.
Maybe just a little bit. Not so surprising is AJ Ferrari jumping into the transfer portal, because
I was shocked.
in that interview he was definitely putting it out there, like, I think like basically saying, I think I proved that I'm able to behave, guys. Like, look, I've changed. Like every interview, like I've humbled myself. I've done this. Like it was a pitch in just about every interview, and it was an interesting pitch every single interview.
It was something.
But he
It
was letting
certainly
people
was
know,
something.
like, I'm here to wrestle, and this, that, whatever. My antics are this. After a match, I'm going to celebrate, but look, I'm behaving. There's no bad marks, and the coaches here will tell you that I did good while I was here. That's what I was getting from literally every time there was a camera and a microphone on him. Is, hey, look, I behaved. Look, I can behave now, right?
You were
And
much more short spoken than he was. His average interview was like 23 minutes.
yeah, but like,
My wife was cracking up at the one where he goes, I wear organic underwear. I use bamboo.
Oh my god.
It was so funny. He had that Bible verse and then some wrestling talk, and then it's entertaining. I'll give him that.
And
he's
then
a
talking about his
character.
Twitter beef and
Yeah, it was a good weekend for him, I think.
The wild shit. Okay. The wild shit about that is that wasn't the first time I had heard that, regarding the organic
About his
toilet
underwear?
paper and the underwear.
Yeah,
And the fact that I had heard that secondhand somewhere else means that he's telling as many people
Everyone.
as will listen.
yeah.
This
He doesn't
made
drink
it
out of
from
plastic bottles either.
California to Michigan, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
dude, like, oh, I guess this is better.
I saw him drinking out of a plastic bottle this weekend. That's a lie.
that's
I
the
mean,
rumor. He doesn't do it. I mean, maybe it wasn't his bottle. Obviously, I don't know.
listen, he
That's what Dayton Vick said too.
he, Jesus. He behaves though,
Allegedly.
and you got to give him props for behaving. You
Continuous
certainly do.
improvement.
But I mean, the transfer portal, it's going to be fun to see kind of where the thousands of or hundreds of guys end up going. As I'm looking at, a list that we got, and at least, and this isn't even an updated list. You would literally need to get an updated list like hour by hour to
Right.
keep track of all the different guys that are in the transfer portal right now. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, Swiderski already announced he's going to be at Oklahoma State. So we'll certainly see. We will definitely see where these guys end up. Christian Carroll, can't wait to see his third school where he decides to go after going to
Jordan Williams, for that matter, too.
Iowa State, Jordan Williams as well. So we'll see.
Carroll's on his fourth. He committed to Penn and Illinois, right? Illinois, Penn, Oklahoma State, Iowa State. He's on his fifth.
It's not a commitment until you show up,
I guess you're right.
as we've learned.
Yeah, I mean, Kirklead had a couple. We've said that before.
Yeah.
Kirklead had pictures in every single singlet
Yes.
in the Big Ten at some point, as well as the Big 12.
Everybody likes free gear. It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah,
True.
I mean, we do. This stuff is really cool. Go head over to CMP Sportswear.
If I knew how to Photoshop, I'd just start committing everywhere.
Let's commit to talking about the wrestling, because that was the important stuff that happened over the weekend. And I'm just gonna say it, the finals were boring. They were.
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm out. I disagreed.
I agree.
They were boring in the sense of we had 6 matches where the first period was 0-0. 6 of them. Like it was such a relief when I saw Brock Hardy coming to the mat, because he was going after everyone, that I literally said, we're getting points. We're getting first period points in this match. I know we're getting first period points in this match. But let's start, let's go in the same order that they went into. 184 off the rip. I know people hated it to start. It ended up being the right way to go, essentially. It was a good match. Carter wrestled very well. Parker wrestled very well. That match did not disappoint whatsoever. Parker wrestled insanely well against McAnally as well. Like, that match was incredible.
That's where I wanted to start, is that the semifinals.
Yeah, that semifinal was crazy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kev. Take it away. You got some stuff.
Well, just it was a wild match, and like there are very few instances where I'm sitting there watching wrestling with my wife, and this was one of those instances. And I remember, I think it might have been at the end of the third or early in overtime. No, it wasn't overtime, where we're watching it and she's going, "What's happening? Who's getting this? Like, what's going on?" And I'm just like, I don't know. We have to watch it pan out. Like,
No one has points yet.
Shut up and watch.
Nobody's winning yet. It's not even like 60-40. I don't know what's happening. And that's what makes it beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, so it was awesome to see. McAnally's going to be such a force moving forward. If he stays at 184, if he bumps up to 197, and it'll be interesting to see. Like, I know I'm moving forward a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see if Barr stays at 197 or if he drops down and we get the Mirasola twins kind of sliding in there. But I'm looking forward to the future, man. I hate to just cast off Starachi and Kekaizen this quickly, but man, that was exciting.
We're in good hands at 184.
Yes. But no, I mean, like, and I saw a picture today, I think it was on Carter's Instagram, as I was kind of, flipping through, he did, I think the comment was like, last name ever, first name greatest, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just all those pictures. And it was the one where he's got his straps down and he's looking over as Parker's got his hand up and they're staring at each other. That was badass. That was
a
really
cool
badass.
picture.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. This is not high level like analysis of the match. I'm just talking about Instagram and my wife. But regardless, I love both of those things.
But
So
it all comes in context.
yeah. That's it. That's my take.
Gentlemen, anything?
Kekis is so hard to score on. It's crazy. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that, like, the finish in the semifinals was like the the IQ it takes to feel that position and wrestle through that on the edge like that and gain advantage from it is insane. Like that's not the reaction that 99% of high level wrestlers would have to get to that. And it was so fun to watch.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we all got the final we were expecting, and Carter winning 5 was obviously historical. And it was nice to see a guy like Foka, make the All American podium again, come away with 5th, and DJ Washington 8th place. I mean, they
After
announced,
being in the hospital that
yeah,
night.
he was in the hospital like on was it Thursday night, and he came
Thursday
back.
night,
And
yeah.
what? Like
He lost his
stories
first
like that, you
match.
don't hear of it. It's incredible, man.
Hey, admittedly, I've made DJ Washington jokes that he is a 5-time national qualifier, and I think needed an at-large bid at 4 of them. And never got it done. And I swear to God, I was kind of, I was coaching wrestling over the weekend. I wasn't really watching as much of it as that I would have liked to, so I wasn't paying as much attention to the backside as I was obviously the semifinals and finals.
More of a front side guy, are you?
More of a front side guy, yes, indeed. That's what they call me. But
Front
no,
side.
it was just interesting. I'm watching. I think it was a Twitter post from Indiana, like he got it done, and I was like, huh, crazy. And then I went and I looked back, and I was like, damn it, he beat Edmund Ruth. Like Edmund kicked his ass earlier this year.
Yeah, he did.
In a way that I was like, well, I guess that settles that. And nope, not what it mattered. So, hey, credit to DJ, man. I was happy for him. He got it done. For a guy who started his career by pinning Carter Sirachi, able to finish off at the podium, that's some pretty decent bookends.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to McAnally because he had a year where his only 2 losses came in overtime against returning NCAA final, a 5-time champ, an NCAA champ, and he ended up beating a finalist in plot for 3rd place.
Mm-hmm.
Like
2 takedowns in like 30 seconds too to get the win.
That kid is, and I want to go back. I'm going to go back and post some clips of my conversation with Eggum from the beginning of the year where he talks about McAnally, because the last 2 years, and I've said this before, he has told me which one of his guys was going to kind of shock the bracket. Obviously Wells didn't get it done, didn't wrestle as well this year, no pun intended. But like last year was a point away from an All-American, being an All-American. But he called his shot, man. And he's like, these are the guys that are going to be so good this year. And when you have those interviews with coaches at the beginning of the year, they all say that. But to see it kind of come full circle, and for his only 2 losses to be against just like history makers, like guys that were just staples that we're going to remember in history for so long. Those are his only 2 losses in his redshirt freshman year. It is incredible. And his only 2 losses in college so far, because he was undefeated as a true freshman in his redshirt year too. So like, just very impressed by that kid at 84.
After you stopped recording, was he like, dude, I've got a polar bear. Like, this guy's a freak. He's gonna rip arms off and beat people with it. It was Mortal Kombat.
It was super interesting because I got to go back. I don't remember if I have the conversation from last year saved. I know I have this year's, but it was just like the same thing, just insert Wells and insert McAnally. But when he talked about McAnally, his eyes like lit up and was like, this kid, this is the guy, right? Like, I think we're in good hands with this guy. And he was just like so excited to talk about him. And, Eggum is normally pretty even keel. But he was just like so incredibly excited. And you're right. When we stopped recording, he talked about him even longer. We talked about NCAAs coming to Minnesota and being in the Viking Stadium. We talked about all that kinds of stuff and, and making sure that we stay in touch, which he did the entire year. I would get texts from Eggum about different things. But he talked about Max and was just so excited for this kid to hit the mat And I mean, third place, you can't help but be happy about that in your first year on the mat. So yeah, he was super excited about it.
Especially with the two finalists. I mean,
Yeah, like taking them both to overtime, like that part in and of itself, and
Two
he was
guys who
leading
shouldn't have been
Carter.
there in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just with eligibility wise, they had extra years. That's
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's true. Yeah.
If there's no COVID, we potentially see McAnally in the finals, right? Like
if COVID happens in '98, is Kale undefeated? Nobody knows.
Good point.
nobody
Probably
knows.
yes. Probably yes.
It is a good point, because I remember when we were talking about last week, and there were people that commented on the show, and it's funny. Obviously I love going back and looking at comments. But there was somebody like they brought up who did you bring up? Was it Isaiah Martinez that you brought up talking about uh who you thought would be like undefeated, kind of like
Oh yeah, that
Kale
was a conversation.
and
Anybody who says
people
it,
were like, he brought up him instead of like Nickel or and it's like, wait a second, you got to remember, like
Isaiah was undefeated early in his
he
sophomore
was
year.
undefeated the entire season. So
Yeah.
yes, that's who we were talking about. Like, and
There's a duration period. There's a period where you're like, yes,
yes, like this could be a thing. So that
you
was
didn't bring
funny
up
to
Spencer
me.
Lee. No, Spencer Lee lost as a freshman, so
He-
I absolutely did not.
Exactly. Right.
Like-
And he even said, the guy even said, he was like he was like, it wasn't Nickel that he brought up. It wasn't Brooks that he brought up. And it's like, all these guys lost as freshmen. Every
Yes.
single one of them had losses as freshmen. None of them finished their year undefeated as freshman national champions, except for Martinez. Like, it didn't happen. So yes, that's why we went back that far. And there were more questions in there and more people making comments that I will make sure to bring up as we get to the different brackets and things like that. But let's move to 125. Back to back, the top two seeds go down in the quarters, and it was super unexpected. And I had people that were sending me text messages like, "Who's this Seymour kid?" And excuse me, yeah, "Who's this Seymour kid? Like, where did he come from?" And like, I'm like, he's a two-time champ from PA. Like, needed time to develop, right? Like, and he's developing. They're like, well, what was the match like when he wrestled them during the year? And I'm like,
Close.
4-1, right? Like it was takedown. That was it. So, Austin, I'm gonna go to you. What were your thoughts of that match? Any surprise, any shock, or was it like you've been watching Seymour all year and this is the trajectory that you had seen him on?
Well, I know he'd be, close to that podium. Round of 12 would be, round of 16 would probably be his floor, and then round of 12, and then, seventh, eighth, maybe sneak in fifth and sixth. But yeah, after seeing him beat Caleb Smith Thursday night too, decently pretty easy, I was like, okay, yeah, he's Lillidahl's been looking really good. Seymour had a close match with him. Anything happens here, but Lillidahl's still freaking Lillidahl, and Seymour got away from all the takedowns. I was in the back tunnel there after he won, and Lehigh staff, I think they used the word either slimy or something to get out of like all those takedowns. See that Lillidahl almost had on him, So Lillidahl was just on the leg a few times and just couldn't finish. Seymour squirmed out of him and beat him in tiebreakers. It was a great match by Seymour, and and ended up being sixth place. Awesome for him. And a lot of people don't know he was Darian Cruz's training partner in Paris for the Olympics this year. So just getting that kind of exposure and picking a guy like Darian Cruz's brain obviously helped Sheldon Seymour go a long way here. So doing some of those off-season things and maybe not wrestling competitively, sometimes that does pay off in the end. I think that's a good example there.
He was one of those guys all year, and yeah, Penn State Lehigh was early enough in the season where I think Lillidahl was probably ranked like 16th or 18th at the time, and I think Seymour was ranked like 20th or 22nd at the time. So it didn't seem like that big a match early. As the season went on, they consistently remained, really good, winning a lot of matches. Their rankings go up, and then all of a sudden they're 1-8 at NCAA's, and guy got it done. In what was a super close match to begin with. and obviously made adjustments, improved throughout the year, and was confident going into the match. Very happy for him.
On the other side of that is Vincent Robinson, and I'm gonna go to our ACC homer. I mean, Robbie, you must have been doing backflips, and I told you so's when it came to Vincent Robinson making not only making the finals, but then ended up winning in overtime.
I was so hoping that it was going to be an all ACC final, and it was
Dangerously
right
close.
there. It was
Mhm,
right there.
mhm.
I mean, I can't say enough about Vince. He wrestled a fantastic tournament. He wasn't as, dynamically offensive as we had seen him at points in the season, but he wrestled smart the entire tournament. He controlled matches. He controlled the mat. I mean, he did everything he needed to do and showed, a really high wrestling IQ, especially in that final, to get it done. And I mean, he beat Spratley much bigger in their duel. So he'd had a match against him. Spratley had felt him before. Not the match I was expecting in the final, but I like the outcome.
I think that was more so on Spratley that the match was like that because, and I think it was
Because
you,
he didn't shoot in
Austin.
that match or the match before it.
Well, not so much that, but I think it was Austin that, or no, maybe not Austin. Somebody tweeted and I responded to it. And they had said that Spratley is cautious of the reattack from Vincent, from Robinson. And I said, that's because in their first match, he got his ass kicked on reattacks.
He got picked apart by it.
So he's not going to play that game again. And
it's the same reason he didn't attack Eddie.
Yeah.
In the semi.
Yep. Because that is certainly something that Spratley leaves himself open to is a reattack, because there are times where he will shoot a shot where he commits on the first half, not on the second half, and he opens himself up to a reattack. And that it was evident in the match with Vinny during the season, and he was not going to go down that road again, especially in the final. And you saw that, and that's why the match was as close as it was.
He needs to just get better at the reattack.
Reattacks.
Then you got to worry about the reattack.
Reattacks were
it's like a switch. You switch, reswitch. That's just how it works.
Triple stamp, double stamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing here though is Robinson was beat Thursday night by McGowan.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Super duck to win that one, and it's
Dead
like
to
that guy went on to win. Like, just crazy how this tournament
was
like
wild.
That.
Yeah,
McGowan had him beat.
Is Robinson transferring in the transfer portal if he loses that match? We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we don't know. Shit.
He might have entered since we started this anyway. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think unless
I don't
him
think
and
Vinny's going anywhere.
Yeah, unless him and Pat get into a fist fight, I don't think he's going anywhere. The match.
I'd take
I wanted to win
one,
an NCAA title in regulation. Damn it.
The match that was like wild at this weight was when Peterson pinned Figueroa, and it was the cradle that he used off of a Navy, and locking up a cradle and then rolling it through. I meant to text Middich when it happened, but I was like, he's been working out with you too much, because Middich used to do some
felt it.
Crazy stupid stuff.
You saw him as soon as he got to that. He knew it was there and just went straight to it.
Knew it. And it was just like and it was not even really locked that tight. Like the lock was really high. It was like on his shoulder, and he rolled it through and ended up pinning him. And I just was like, I can't believe what just happened. That entire sequence though, like before they even got there, I mean, Figueroa getting the takedown, Peterson getting the reversal, and then locking up the cradle, like that entire sequence. I must have watched that clip like 15 times. Watching that clip, that was like such great wrestling. That entire match was just like mind blown of like how these guys were scrapping.
We were talking about the Jonesy tilt before we started recording here. The Navy ride is a whole universe of awesome attacks that people don't use enough. And I know it's kind of a weird situation to get into, but if you look for it, you'll find it. And it's just avenues to attack and turn people and mess up their entire game plan. Big fan of the Navy ride.
Yeah, and he
crazy
used it
tilt
right.
series from there.
He used it right during that match. So we're 2 champs now. Let's head to 133. I know we're probably getting a little long-winded, so we'll speed it up here. And I'll just say I told you so at 133.
Short King.
Short King for the win. I told you at the beginning of the season he was my pick to win, and he got the job done. I'm not happy with how he won. I mean, a stall call isn't how you really want to see a guy win a match. However,
Isla was stalling his ass off.
the stall call was a makeup call
Yeah.
or during the
time,
match.
Yeah, the time it was called was not great, but
and
it
I
was
don't
certainly
know,
warranted and
yeah,
earned.
I don't know where you guys were sitting, but for us at home, when they go out of bounds, the way that they went out of bounds, it's and the camera shot that they have of us, you
When
could literally see the referee just contemplating, like, oh, I need to call it right there, but I'm not gonna. Like, you could see the hamster on the wheel where he was like, call stalling, and it was in his head and he didn't call it. So I feel like it was a complete makeup call and they were definitely going to stick to it. But I was thoroughly impressed by Lucas Bird. I mean, he had a tough first one. That first one out of the gate was not the easiest. And then after that, he was, smooth sailing, major decision, and then shuts out Romney. He, had 3 points scored on him in the entire tournament. 2 of them were in that first match. Just a great tournament for him. But 33, what were your guys' thoughts?
Super impressed by Bird.
Yeah.
Super impressed by Bird. I mean, he did everything he needed to do. Ayala really kind of fell off with how aggressive he was, I felt like, from the semifinals on. And you see, I mean, the crazy points he put up. Major tech fall was 23-10 in the semis, and then
he got
Bird
called
just
for
completely
stalling.
shut him down. Yeah. So it's a weird comparison there, just to see how different the style was in that match, because we were expecting like the more aggressive Ayala that we'd seen all year, and that's not what we saw in the finals.
Yeah, it was awesome to see Fugit say "fug it" and want to run there and make the semis. Eventually, what do you get? 4th. So great tournament for Wisconsin there, and kind of under the radar. Everyone was thinking the 25-pounder Rivera would be kind of in the mix there, and he didn't get it done, but Fugit did. That's awesome, man. Good for Wisconsin.
I started following that dude on Instagram recently, and I was like, he's got a lot of posts. He's always going through like, technique videos and stuff like that. But fuck it, the dude's awesome. Like, or Fugit, sorry. He's great. He's great. But I don't know. I'm happy for Lucas Bird. It was a really, really intense match. Despite the low score, I was fine with it. But my favorite part was at one point, Jordan Burroughs was talking about how Ayala got pinned in the Big Ten, finals there. And he's like, I don't know how you rebound from something like that. And DC goes, I don't know either, man. Rock, you've been pinned.
Yeah, that was great.
And it was just like a throwaway line.
That was
but
good.
I happened to hear it, and I couldn't stop laughing. I paused it and told my wife like what it meant. It was it was great. It was great, and no shade to Rock. Like, I've been pinned. My whole thing about like good wrestlers is you don't know how to get off your back. Like, I'm great at it. I'm excellent. If you want a clinic on getting off your back, I'm your man. All right.
Yeah, got a lot of practice there.
Yeah, 10,000 hours.
Yeah, 33 was a lot of fun. I was very, we talked about Nasir Bailey, but I was very surprised in, his underperformance at 133. I obviously had him making, I think, the finals in my bracket.
I think he said he was going to win.
Yeah.
No,
Who would be their
I
first
did
national
not say he
champ?
was going to win. I said he was going to be in the finals. I said Lucas Bird wins, but he was going to be in the finals.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was their
Um,
first finalist.
Yeah, he was.
Check the tape.
I did say that. But like, man, I don't know. I don't know what he's looking for because he got all the attention that he needed when he was at Little Rock. But that's besides the point. We did talk about
Hey,
that already.
shout out to Braden Davis though, taking 5th. Good for him, getting on the podium.
Penn
That
State
was tough.
he needed that for sure.
He did need that, and especially because he'll be replaced next year by Ono. Evidently, it seems. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe he'll
Jay,
enter the
what do we
transfer
think of
portal
that?
since
What
we
do
started
we
recording.
what do we think of the international flavor making its way into the domestic lineups? We already saw Rin Sakamoto in the lineup against Iowa for Oklahoma State. Now we're going to see Ono in Penn State. I already said book it 133 Sakamoto versus Ono for the NCAA title next year.
The Intercontinental Championship.
Calling it right now.
Ladder match.
I don't know.
Braden Davis and the Gal.
Apparently they had ladders at the NCAA tournament. I missed it because I was back there interviewing somebody and I missed the ladder match. I was pissed.
Yep.
I don't understand it. Like as a high level freestyler, why would you want to change your style? I mean, like I understand like learning things from a different style. I don't understand changing your competition schedule and going into effectively a new sport to compete when you're ultimately trying to go back and still be competitive in freestyle. So that doesn't make sense to me. Like I understand anybody wanting to train in Happy Valley. That's not surprising. But I don't understand. I guess it doesn't make sense to me. Just the process of going from a world champ to, oh, I'm going to try this new style I've never done before, and hopefully that doesn't fuck up my freestyle.
Devil's advocate though, right? Like if you're some of these guys who consistently watch us just throw in new guy after new guy after new guy, right? I mean, we talked about, or at least they talked about on the broadcast, Keegan O'Toole shows up at, I guess it was U20s or U23s or something like that, wins a world championship, just cradling dudes and throwing in like
cradles and bars.
Yeah. And it's like, we consistently throw in new guys into the lineup, into these Olympic and world team spots coming out of college lineups, and they're just ready to go. And so maybe that's where they're thinking, right? Like if you're coming from, overseas or one of these other areas and they're like, these guys just show up with these like machine gun dudes that don't know what they're doing, but like suck to wrestle. Maybe if we know what we're doing and we also learn how to wrestle at that pace, like then we can be perfect. So, that's kind of maybe what they're thinking.
I think it's a nightmare for USA Wrestling and UWW is what I think it is. They're going to, the way that people have already discussed things that are happening with, our domestic guys that want to represent other countries, right? I mean, Saldate said he's going to be wrestling for Mexico on Instagram. We already have Austin Gomez. Yeah, we already have Austin Gomez. And then, we talked about Lachlan McNeil, who has been wrestling for Canada, right? Like all of these different guys that wrestle for other countries. And, everybody wants to have an issue with it there. Now we're taking guys from the freestyle ranks into the folk style ranks. And then on top of that, they're at the best RTC, arguably the best RTC that we have, where resources are going to be going. Now you're essentially supporting this wrestler because he is probably going to sign with, Penn State's RTC. You know what I mean? So like,
and now Earl's ranking him,
right? Like, what are you going to do?
Now he's got credibility.
I think my thought around it was the extra competition factor where they may not have, and I don't know what sort of structure they have, but I know that I've seen like one-off wrestling matches, right? Where they've done some different types of cards or whatever else, or maybe they just train all the time and they gear up for, the tournaments that they have over there. But now it's going to be consistent, right? Where he's going to have consistent competition. He's going to be in one of the best rooms to do whatever, right? So like that was my thought around it, was just like, what kind of competition is he used to having and training is he used to having? And maybe this change of, I mean, it's got to be great because he's a world champion on multiple levels, but now he can have a different style, some different coaching, some different expertise, and a different continuous amount of competition. And that was my only thought, is maybe that's what he wants, is to compete more. And he wants not only that, but like to feel the spotlight that we have here, right? Because he's only getting that something. I mean, it's, call it what it is. It's fun to wrestle in the NCAA. It's fun to compete domestically and be in those big arenas and have those fans and stuff like that. That's fun. That's a ton of fun. And now he can get a chance to experience that. I'm going to be kind of optimistic about how these old school Penn State fans are going to welcome him. It's going to be very different.
It's a very nice way of putting that.
I mean, there's
Very diplomatic.
a lot of old white guys with white hair is essentially what you're seeing at Penn State, to put it frankly. And not to say that that's bad, but like, it's different. It's a different atmosphere of wrestling to be in. And
I mean, they booed Jordan Burroughs. So
yeah, exactly. Like, it's going to be very
And
interesting.
Jacob Cardenas and AJ Ferrari.
They boo everybody.
There was two fights after the 197 semifinals involving Penn State fans talking shit to the losers at 197. It was ridiculous.
Everybody. So they're a tribal bunch. They are a very tribal bunch. So it's just interesting to say the least, of like how these things are going to go and what these lineups are going to look like. And obviously there's all these jokes about, you know, Sajalayev is gonna be the next heavyweight at Penn State and this, that, whatever. You know, it's interesting. We'll certainly see what happens. I don't think that, you know, it's gonna start any sort of trend. But I do think it probably does open the door even more so for foreign-born wrestlers to come here and train, even though we've always basically had an open door policy where a lot of these guys have been.
And we have a lot of them.
And we have a lot of them
training
here.
at Cornell now. There's, I mean, that's Japanese national team has been kind of all over this year.
Exactly. And I think that, I mean, it kind of opens the door a little bit more, but is what it is. Let's move on to 141. Brock Hardy and Mendez. And this was the best, highest scoring final, but probably the most entertaining final, honestly, outside of the heavyweight one. This was so entertaining. Both guys end up with back points and take that. Like, it was awesome. But overall, what'd you guys think of 141?
I was super impressed with Hardy. Like he came in and just threw it out there, and every single match it was full go and nothing held back, and it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, him and Mendez put up a lot of points. I mean, until Mendez met Bartlett, obviously, and in the finals, 21 points. Like that's unheard of to see in an NCAA final. You know, shout out to Josh Coderhunt, Naval Academy, 6th place. Love that. And CJ Composto from Penn coming in 4th place and from the hometown, sent Coach Rogerina out with a bang there, earning an All-American in his last coaching stint there. So. Yeah, 41 was a really fun weight class, I think.
I was super impressed with Composto. I talked to him a little bit during the tournament. He seems like a really good kid and had a hell of a run.
Yeah.
It was a badass weight entirely. It really was. It's kind of a bummer. Clearly, Alirez was not the Alirez that we all really wanted to see at this point in the season. And, you know, we had talked about it weeks ago about his match count was low. And, you know, obviously the loss to Jameson was, I guess, not really suspect because Jameson was like really good all year. But regardless, like, let's celebrate the dude, right? Like, Mendez was awesome. Before the season started, I had messaged Jay Jaggers about, you know, who his breakout guys that we should be kind of looking at or highlighting are. And he said Jesse Mendez, LOL, like it's like not really breakout, dude. He won last year.
Yeah, but he
But
came
no.
with 4 losses. It wasn't as good of a year for him, even though the result was the same. The road to get there was bumpier.
Well, and I think it's funny to use that terminology because, like, I think if you were to ask Jesse if this, if this year were better than last year, I think he would say this year was better than last year. He had to go through more adversity. He had to go through more bullshit in order to get through this, and ultimately to get through the quicksand that is Bo Bartlett, right? Like, how many times did he drown in that quicksand this year? 2 or 3 losses to him at least.
Twice. Yeah, I think twice.
Yeah, twice.
And so, to be able to fight his way out of that, like, pretty impressive stuff. So, that was awesome. And then to avenge the loss at Big Tens, like, even at Big Tens, the match kind of started the same way. Like, Hardy got a big lead up early and then just kind of, fought it off. There's a lot of stoppages. I don't remember if it was for blood time or what it was, if it was, challenge after challenge or whatever. But yeah, Mendez got it done, man. He came back, he fought it through. And then I loved what he said after the fact, which was essentially like, look, you have to visualize this match 1,000 times. And at least in some of those 1,000 visualizations, half of those have to be you losing. And what do you do when that happens? How do you get it done? And that blew me away because I was like, I don't want to visualize losing. Like, I want to visualize the best part, right? I get my hand raised and yeah, like the losing part is the worst part. Why would I visualize it? But no, he did it and he got it done, and he's the man. He and Logan Stieber are like the Buckeyes that I just look at and I'm like, regardless of singlet situation, those guys are heroes. Those guys are awesome.
Nothing else to add. On the 49, as much as Robbie would love to skip it.
Hold on. One thing at 41 real quick.
Okay.
Shout out to Sam Latona. Went 0-2 on the weekend. It was not known, but he had surgery on his hand last week and still fought through it, tried to make a run and just didn't have it. It's pretty tough to see him go out like that, but hell of a run in Blacksburg for him. I think there's some really good things on the horizon for him. I had a couple different coaches asking me about him, if he'd be interested in coaching, and I think that'd be pretty cool to see. So shout out to him. Yeah, moving on to more hokey misery at 49.
Man,
God, I wish taking second I could consider misery.
yeah.
How about it?
Imagine being a multiple-time NCAA finalist and being miserable. Yeah. I mean, but I get it.
Could be worse. Could be Uncle Rico and just sitting here. Used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Ridge Lovett gets it done in the finals the same way that he did in the Big Ten finals, is the same way he gets it done in the NCAA finals. Only this time he used his face to not give up neutral danger, which was pretty amazing, honestly. But both guys were very dominant into the final. They wrestled very well. Outside of Lovett's, what was that first match of the day where he was turned and tilted and had to come from behind against Cartella. Like, I was serious. There was a couple of scares on day one where you were like, whoa, what the hell is about to happen here? But both him and Lucas Bird get out of it and eventually go on to win titles. But yeah, I mean, very impressed by Lovett and his ability to go from a 1-0 win over Webster to a 12-0 win over Webster to make the semis. Like, that's a hell of a turnaround where you wrestle a guy where you have 0 offense against, and then you end up having all the offense against him. So very impressed there. And then obviously him going out and beating Shane Van Ness again, the way that he has all year, was pretty reminiscent. And it was just very impressed. The guy that I was super impressed with was Dylan D'Amelio, though. Like, making the semis and wrestling tough against Henson. Like, very good tournament for him. Who stood out for you guys? Austin, I'll let you go.
Yeah, like you said, D'Amelio definitely definitely impressive making that semi there. Pinheiro Johnson going down first round. I think Robbie did call that with
Yes, he
his,
did.
Nailed it.
his UVA guy. That was
Nailed
a
it.
great call there. And, Sammy Alvarez, you got to give props to that guy. Been around the sport for a while, finally settled down at Ryder, and boom, seventh place on the podium, beating the 22 seed from North Dakota State, Drexler, which is cool to see. Low seeds getting on the podium. And, it's you love it. And Henson, kind of what you expected between Lovett and Van Ness, but yeah, I went back and forth in that takedown that was called for Henson and reversed. I think it was the right call. I don't think it was a takedown. Um, People are arguing the JO rule, but to me, it just seemed like his head was down and not really up in the hips. So I think I agree with the call for the most part.
I
I'm
think I
sure.
was more likely to call an earlier count on the neutral danger than I would have been to call that a takedown.
Yeah,
Um, that I think that would have been my point of contention, or where I would have challenged is, his face was really, really smooshed in the mat there. And it seemed like, from my perspective, and it may be different, I haven't watched the broadcast yet, so I haven't seen all the angles, but it certainly looked like he was in position to get a count earlier than he did. Um, it was frustrating to me to see such a complete lack of offense from Rich. Um, and that, I mean, there was a reason behind it. He didn't want to be
Yeah.
reattacked. But for there to be no stalling warnings with that, except for Henson, who got shoved out of bounds, which was also weird. Um, for there to be no stalling there was I think, poor officiating. I would have liked to see a warning earlier to kind of get the action going, especially when you have somebody warned when they get pushed out. But
Yeah, it was, even though Ridge wasn't shooting like crazy, um,
he was controlling the center,
he
and
was,
it
and
was like freestyle control.
that was the thing for me, and it was reminiscent of the match at 33. Um, Outside of the fact that Lucas Bird was shooting a hell of a lot more and he was attacking and he was really going for it. Ridge was holding center. He's digging underhooks. He's, making sure that his ass is in the center and he's forcing the issue in that regard. Because he even, and I don't know if you heard his interview, Robbie, because you were in the arena, but Ridge had said, after he beat Van Ness to go into the semifinals, is that's how he needs to wrestle in the finals. And when he beat Henson before, it had been going after him, scoring early, and being able to protect his lead. So it was a little unsurprising that he was forcing the issue that way. Um, but it was also like, okay, you're forcing the issue, but you're not scoring right now. Um, you are the aggressor, but there's no points on the board. Is this part of the plan? Where are we going with this? And I knew there was no way he was going to pick top this time around. And anyone that thought he was going to pick top is insane. Not going to happen this time around. Overall, I thought it was a great match. Honestly, it sucked that there was a 1-0 score, but
Yeah, I
there
would have loved to see
was,
that to go overtime and make it,
yeah. I
make it come
mean,
down to a takedown.
it. I
But
would I would love to see more offense as well. However, what I will say about it is that both guys put pressure on each other. Ridge was there to start. Henson was there at the end when he needed it. Just couldn't get it done. Neither guy scored a takedown and ends up 1-0. A match where Ridge is more than comfortable to wrestle because we had just seen him do it a week before against a guy that is not on Henson's level. Um, so overall, I thought it was a good match. Two great competitors. Um, we may make picks, but it doesn't mean that we're like cheering to be correct. I would have been just as happy for Henson to win his second one as I am for Ridge Lovett to win his first. And full homer transparency, I loved the Nebraska performance because Brian Snyder is my guy. And, you
They
know,
had an amazing tournament.
amazing tournament, which we'll
Yeah.
obviously get to, but you know, it was a great match and I thought it was awesome. Any other thoughts at 49 or can we move to 57?
I got
Moving
nothing.
on up.
I'm happy. Let's move it up.
Moving on up. Blaze and Taylor.
Just what everybody called.
Yeah. Didn't see that one coming. But I will say that the way that Taylor wrestled Shapiro, wow. Dominant. Very dominant match. Who knows? Maybe Shapiro was talking about Taylor because Taylor did kind of run through his body like a madman in that match.
Good point.
Just kidding. What
That's
were your guys'
what I would
thoughts?
say when I lose.
Yeah.
Everyone I've lost to is on steroids.
Yeah. What were your guys' thoughts at 57?
It's a lot of people. I don't know, man. Like Joey Blaze is awesome. I've been talking about him as a wrestler for a long time, and then I got to talk to him earlier this year in a separate situation, and he was just an awesome guy, really like down to earth, easy to talk to, clear he's goal oriented, and like has his shit together. So always been a fan of his. Taylor was on my fantasy team. So like, you know, at the same time, I had this like contrasting thing. I'm like, who do I want to win? Win-win both ways, I guess. But, you know, Taylor's been fantastic too. And we've said it all year. Like, he's dropping down to the weight class where he actually should be. He was an All-American last year. What did he play? 6th, 5th, somewhere in that range?
Something like that. Yeah.
And so it's like you expected him to be right in the mix. It turns out that Kasak gave up his only takedown of the year at like the worst time possible. And so, you know, that's how we end up with this matchup. And yeah, and there's been a 3-1 lead for Taylor over Blaze. But damn, it was a good match. It's a good match. If we're talking stalling calls, maybe there could have been another one thrown in there a little earlier. Maybe it changes things up a bit. But the reality is it wasn't. So that's the result.
Agreed. Any other thoughts at 57?
Yeah, just kind of touching on what we touched on before with Shapiro, you know, being in a coma a month beforehand, and he talks about adversity. And, you know, I think of adversity as, oh, I'm sick today. I don't feel good. You know, and these guys are battling broken, like, you know, torn ligaments, broken bones. This guy was in a coma.
Consciousness.
Yeah,
just-
minor details.
It just puts a whole nother level to, like, you don't know what these guys are going through. Any given day, anything can happen. And you just didn't expect that weight class to have neither Kasak or Shapiro in the finals, and it did. You know, it's just the way the tournament is. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there's always one bracket that just completely falls apart from the way anybody sees it going, and this year this was it. I mean, awesome performances. Chumley made a fantastic run. Taylor made a great run. Bianchi made a great run. Like there's a lot of really cool stories in this one. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody would have picked Antrell Taylor and Blaze in the final there. But it was a fun match.
Well, hold on real quick. I haven't actually done this yet, but like the fact that Fish and Soldate met in the blood round
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
just
that's awesome.
insane. Like, if you can reverse engineer this and have these two Michigan State, for anybody who's listening to this who doesn't know what happened, both these guys were at Michigan State last year. They transfer away to different schools, one to Michigan, one to Oklahoma State. Sure enough, blood round, one of them is going to be an All-American and the other is not. And yeah, Jesus.
And neither for Michigan State.
Exactly.
Pretty wild how that works out.
Yeah, hold on. Let me reverse engineer real quick. Zurban ended up wrestling Cannon. No, I don't know if it works out any differently. I'm not going to reverse engineer any further. Happy for Caleb Fish. He got it done. And like I said, Soldate is wrestling internationally moving forward. So
Yeah.
the beat goes on.
On the 165, got the match that we thought it was going to be. Messenbrink, Caliendo. Messenbrink gets the win. One thing that I will say about Messenbrink, and this is where another one of the comments comes into play
Is
from
he's
last
on
week's show.
steroids?
Not that,
Oh,
but people think because
Serial,
we joke about certain things that
like
we
his serial
hate
killer glasses.
guys. Yes. Somebody in the comments
no,
said
they didn't.
wow, they really hate Messenbrink. Have you guys have the listeners, have you been in a locker room? Have you been around other guys, like been in a barbershop? Like, if you could see the group that we have, our group chat, we make fun of each other all of the time. It's what we do. It doesn't mean we hate each other. It doesn't mean we hate Messenbrink. I think if any of us disliked any of these guys, you would probably know it. It would be, it's kind of hard to hide that. No, we don't hate Messenbrink whatsoever. Not at all. I honestly, he's one of my favorite guys to watch wrestle.
I do hate his glasses, though. I'll go on record with that.
I mean, if there you go, there's where the hate comes from. Robbie does not like Messenbrink's glasses. The one thing that I will say
But
that
aesthetics.
I'm not a fan of is he said that this was the match against Caliendo, I think in the Big Ten finals, where him and Caliendo had a conversation afterwards, and he told him how much like he loves him, how much he fights and scraps and everything else. Um, but like when Messenbrink gets up against a guy that does fight and scrap, that's when some of his antics kind of come in, some of the extras. Um, that's where we saw the extras come in against him and Burroughs, which drove Burroughs insane to the point where he retaliated. There were some instances that it might have been against Minto or it might have been against Amin. I can't remember which match it was. Um, where they go out of bounds and he continues to lay on a guy and a ref has to like tap him and tell him to stop. So like, and you don't see that in other matches. He doesn't do that to everybody. He does that when he wants to break a guy mentally and get into their heads. If that's how you do it, go on. Like I've got zero issue, but you know, that was the one thing where I'm like, he loves when guys push and when guys fight and when guys wrestle, but that's also when some of his like extras kind of come out a little bit. And I don't have, an issue with it. Keep it legal, whatever else. Don't make it to the point where you were against Burroughs.
Yeah.
But that was an observation that I had of anything that I could potentially dislike about Mesmerink. But no, I think he's a very worthy champion. I think he deserves it. I think he works extremely hard. Um, I would love to see these guys enjoy the moment a little bit more. Um, I understand it's like, yeah, we win and then we go back to the room and we continue to sharpen our axe and everything else. But like you won a national title, it's okay to celebrate that. It's okay to enjoy that. You celebrate it for the night and then you move on. It's kind of how those things work. But like,
Yeah.
I just feel like, none of them was in like a good mood of not so much good mood, but like celebration was like very short lived for me.
Are you gonna
I'd
go
love
to
see you
Disney
guys
World? No, I'm gonna go get on the Aerodyne. And
celebrate.
I'm gonna ride that to the sunset.
Yeah. Imagine that. Right.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
But back to the wrestling. What'd you guys think of 165 with, all the points that were scored by Messenbrink? He's a potential Hodge Trophy winner. He's at least a finalist. We have 3 finalists this year, as opposed to, what was that, last year or the year before? We had like 7.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was pretty wild, but potential Hodge Trophy winner. But what'd you guys think of the weight overall at 165?
Cam Steed was super impressive. He was really, really fun to watch. Dude was super amped up the entire tournament and was a lot of fun. That pin in the last match was wild.
Yeah, against
Yeah, I think Holmes called Minto from Nebraska as well as a
Yeah, he looked really
dark
good.
horse guy. Yeah, he looked really good, and I think he's only a freshman, right? So we'll see him.
Placed
He is.
exactly where I figured he would.
Yeah, so we'll see him a lot coming down the next few years here. It was great. Messenbrink, obviously, I mean, he's almost boring to watch because he's so much better than everybody, but he's also fun to watch because he's always moving, he's always doing something. I don't know if there's ever going to be a day where he loses in the NCAA, but when he does, if that day comes, it's going to be really shocking because I just don't see anyone beating him. He's so damn good.
Agreed.
here I am again, reverse engineering shit. Because if Mantanona beats Steed in the overtime match, and assuming he then loses to Garvin, we would have had the 7th and 8th place match of Cameron Amin versus Bo Mantanona. But we didn't get that because Bo lost to Steed. Credit to Steed. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I don't want to overanalyze a thing we've talked about all year, which was that Messenbrink was the best 165-pound wrestler we've had all year. Credit to Caliendo on taking it from a tech fall to less than that as the year went on. And here we are, on to 174.
Yeah.
If you want to watch a really fun match, go back and watch Hunter Garvin and Julian Ramirez. That match was bonkers.
I think I'll check that out.
I don't need to
16
watch
to 12.
any more matches of Julian Ramirez. I'm good.
It's heartbreaking, but yeah, it was a good match.
It was awesome.
Is it or is it predictable?
No, it definitely wasn't predictable.
Yeah.
I don't mean
Definitely
to like
wasn't.
throw salt on a wound, but Jesus Christ, dude. Like,
Yeah, it's tough.
how many times are we gonna do this?
4.
4?
Yeah,
Maybe
not
less.
anymore, right?
Not
We're good?
anymore.
Okay.
174. Cade DeVos gave Mr. O'Toole everything he wanted. 7-6 to make the finals. O'Toole was certainly pushed in a lot of these matches. And say what you want about him not being healthy, whatever else. I'm not adding that caveat in there because he had months off during the season to get very close to healthy, or as healthy as he really could be. So I'm not gonna, try and take away from anybody's wins. If anything, if he is not 100% and he wrestled as well as he did, that's more so a testament to him.
Yeah, nobody's 100%.
No
this
one,
point in the season.
no one is
So-
100%. Yeah, ever. Yeah, not at this point. Very rarely. But props to Hamity, man. We talked about reattacks. The reattack that he had in this match, so good. Such great lateral movement to get to a leg. He made the adjustment that he needed to make from Big 12 finals. Big 12, you're gonna have to step up. Over the last 2 years, you guys have had an all Big 12 final in a couple of these matches. So you need to step up and make some stuff happen. So that Big 12 is represented, because O'Toole is now gone. He can't be the guy anymore. You got to make sure that there's some other guys coming out of the Big 12 that can do it. And who knows, maybe we'll see if Facundo ends up at Oklahoma State, like a lot of people are predicting. Maybe he actually breaks through when he has some consistency being in the lineup again.
Central Michigan. Fire up chips.
You better put that push in to get him back home.
Hey.
Yeah. But
Casey Cunningham was there. Just saying. There's overlap.
There is overlap. But what were your guys' thoughts on 74?
Yeah, you mentioned O'Toole getting pushed. I mean, he was losing to Norman Thursday night as well. Just
Robbie was like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, I called it weeks ago and I changed my mind."
Yeah, I mean, he just had a vibe. He just had a feeling that O'Toole was going to win that one, no matter what. Entering that third period, I forget the score, but he just had a feeling O'Toole was going to pull
He
it
was
out.
up.
He did. And same thing with
He was up
DeVos.
5.
Yeah, it was. You just had a feeling it was going to happen. But
Yeah. Norman had 6 good minutes in him, and that wasn't enough.
Needed a 7th.
Yeah.
I dull every time I said that. But but yeah, I mean, Hamity.
More than 2 kids.
Yeah, Hamity freaking beating Haynes, returning champ, beating O'Toole, returning champ, and that's, I think someone else talked about it too. That's a huge branding, whatever you want to call it, for Oklahoma State, saying, "Hey, we got these guys over the hump. Look who they beat to do it too." And, so
Oh man,
that transfer portal, I think first they're going to be calling Oklahoma State first. A lot of these guys, so it was a big.
I don't like that argument. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I don't feel like that's Something about that argument bothers me. They got him over the hump. Well, they had a year to push through a guy who's been right there. Like, yeah, I don't know. Something about it just doesn't sit right with me.
But
No, I agree.
but the results are what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
mean,
thing that's really, really shitty to argue with, is that, like, and they're just gonna go, but look,
yeah,
this is the
exactly.
thing that happened. And
Yeah.
and I agree, because you could do the same thing with Iowa. And I made the same argument yesterday. It's like, you could literally go, oh, well, Parko and Teamer didn't pan out.
1 point.
Right. However, Buchanan did.
Maybe they just
There
needed to
you
go
go.
to one more team before they got to Iowa.
Yeah, well, that's
Maybe.
pretty bad.
Third time's the charm. Oh, that
I
was the
mean-
joke I was going to make earlier, is that Williams lost to what's his face from Ryder in the blood round.
Alvarez.
Yes, and it
Yep.
was like, I need a third school.
Yeah.
That's the reason I need to transfer again. Third time's the charm.
I think you can make the argument with Oklahoma State, because again, as Clunch said, like, look at the result. The result is that they were at these different schools. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different when it comes to Hendrickson, but Hamity was in the same program, same coaches at Wisconsin for 4 years, and every year coming up short, and now he gets what he wanted, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like,
you're putting
where
it with
does
a
that come
technician who's one of the best in the world at his weight. Like, that's what you should expect, I think. Like, I mean, maybe we don't expect him to make the finals, but you expect that growth to happen when you put him in that position.
Yes,
Well,
but there's also something to
that's
be
the argument
said
for Oklahoma State,
about
yeah.
making that change, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's a testament to what Austin said, of like, these guys, look at the finish that they had. Look at the finish that Oklahoma State had in Tulsa. How Dayton Fix did in Tulsa, how bad that was for them. Where it's like, this is the year that Dayton Fix gets it done. I guarantee you, Dayton Fix gets it done that year, he doesn't come back the next year, regardless whether he has another year left. He gets it done in front of his home crowd. It's over. It's done. On the freestyle, we're done. But he doesn't. He comes back another year, and they obviously do better that following year because there was a different emphasis and everything else. Now they changed the regime. New guys come in, coaching as well as team, and they do even better. The finish was better for the team. They come back with multiple champions, something they haven't done in a number of years, regardless whether how they got those guys, right? It doesn't matter if they were there for 4 years or there for 40 seconds. Those guys were in the room with that team and won titles. So there's definitely something to be said for that coaching staff. I think you have to make that assessment.
Independent of winning titles, all of the transfers did better than they did previously. All of them.
At Oklahoma State.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fish, and then Hamity and Hendrickson.
Yeah. So there's something to be said about that. I mean, even Spratley. Spratley
yeah.
Spratley
He
was certainly on the team, but he was a transfer before David Taylor got there. But even Spratley does better.
Yeah, round of 12 to second is better.
Right? Like, even like those guys
Who
even
is
do
better
better.
than 12?
The only guy that regressed is Dustin Plott. But like, look who's in his way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's his fault.
You lose to a five-time
Look at yourself in the mirror, Dustin.
Right? Like, you lose to a 5-time champ in the semis. It's kind of going to happen that way, right? Like, so you can't really put any onus on that, but it is what it is. On the 97, we've already discussed 84. 97, as we said, Buchanan gets it done. Third school was the charm. He also beats Ferrari, which is what we had seen kind of coming. I don't think any of us picked Ferrari to make the finals.
I did.
Did you?
To lose to Cardenas.
Yeah. I mean, I
I was
had
wrong,
Ferrari
turns out.
third, I think. But like, here's what I'll say about Ferrari. He seems to lack a high level leg attack. That was apparent.
Oh.
Because anytime he met a high level guy, anytime he met a guy in the top 10, he could not score a takedown.
He can shut him down.
He's really good on getting to a leg, and then as long as he can get up to the crotch and pull it in and get his head up and cut the corner, he's good.
You can't always rely on just being a brute, having brute strength in that position.
Right.
And he tried.
Well, this was my nightmare against, remember when Miles Amin was at 197? And I was like, damn, like I really hope this matchup doesn't happen in the semis, because one guy's enormous and the other guy's Miles Amin wrestling at 197.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, and that's how we got Bonacorsi and Ferrari and the national title. Anyway,
Ferrari only had 4 takedowns the entire tournament.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, not optimal for sure.
No, when you're that good on top, like, God, I feel like I'm the guy on here who's always like, give AJ a chance, And I hate being that guy, but like he's fucking, good on top. He's really good on top.
You can't rely on that every time, because there are guys who
not when the
you're
margins
going to
are that
need to
thin.
score a takedown against.
Yes, exactly. And I didn't think that Buchanan was going to get a takedown on him. That was what I called the match on last week.
Yeah,
I think Novak got a takedown from Wyoming on him too.
He did.
Novak's a beast.
Novak took him down.
Yeah.
Novak is an absolute beast.
Yeah. But I mean, Buchanan wrestled a great match. Barr also wrestled a really great tournament, even though he was very badly banged up.
Was he?
Wrestled well.
He wrestled damn good.
Yeah, he was.
I'm just
definitely not 100%.
They threw a thing on his leg and he was perfect. I made the joke yesterday, like, Kale is Mr. Miyagi, just slaps his hands and rubs them together, and then it's like, get out there. Here's a sleeve to make it look like.
They're using some substances.
Or they took the ACL out of Kirkfleet and just slapped it right into Barr.
Maybe that's what happened.
Maybe it was just cold spray.
Cold spray.
Works
every time. Works every time. But no, props to Buchanan getting the title. Iowa certainly needed it. They haven't had one in a while. The fact that 3 teams had three finalists, amazing, right? Like last year we were talking about how Ayala saved the Iowa streak. This year it's like they got 3 guys in the finals. Nebraska, 3 guys in the finals. If you told me that Nebraska, Penn State, and Iowa all have the same amount of guys in the finals, I would have told you were nuts.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. And Iowa
Barr had a great tournament. He really grew on me through the year. Like, I think I was very unsure of how he would be at 97 because he is so undersized, but he's wrestled so well with his positioning and being able to utilize his speed more.
Yeah.
You know what? This is a good moment to actually go back to the steroids thing. You know who's definitely not on steroids? Josh Barr. He is a tiny 197-pound wrestler wrestling at 197 pounds against some grown-ass men and made the damn finals, dude. Like, I don't know what else to do as far as like providing examples of how things work and why this argument is stupid, but it is. Don't make excuses. Just wrestle.
Yeah.
Shoemate had a great run.
Yeah,
he
did.
He was fun to watch too.
He did.
Yeah.
Who did he
maxed out look good?
Yeah, that was sad watching
that was tough.
Brothers wrestle. That was sad.
It was so nice though. Like he came off afterwards and I asked him if he wanted to talk. He said he didn't want to. It's like, cool. I'll come back to you, no worries. And then he got like swarmed as soon as he went back in the tunnel. So I went and talked to him afterwards. He's like, I'm sorry I said no to you. It's like, no, dude, you're good, man.
Yeah,
I've
you're
got 2
good.
older brothers. I can't even imagine.
You're good.
Cannot even imagine what's
I
going on
was
in your
just the
brain right
first
now.
person to get there. That's
Yeah,
all.
Yeah.
yeah. First to market sometimes sucks.
Yeah.
Yup.
I'm sure
But
if you
yeah,
guys saw Earl's article about the stats, figures, and trends.
Mhm.
I haven't
Buchanan's
read it
win,
yet.
Buchanan's win over Josh Barr was a first by an Iowa wrestler over a Penn State wrestler in the NCAA final since McDonough defeated Megaludis in 2012.
I did
That's
see
crazy.
that one. Yeah.
Penn State was 6-0 in head-to-head finals matchups until then.
So Penn State got 2 first since Nico this week, last weekend, with Lillidahl being the first All-American since Nico won the
Mhm.
tournament, and then this one
That's
with
crazy.
Buchanan and Barr. Yeah,
Yeah.
wild.
It's always
Good
good to
weekend
see
for
those
Nico.
guys, just getting through barriers, They very rarely are able to find new records to break, and I'm glad they found some.
Yeah, and we'll get to we'll do the team thing. Let's talk
Is
heavyweight.
it
and we'll talk team.
manufactured adversity that they're doing? Probably.
I think so.
Probably. Where were you when Hendrickson completed the biggest upset of a man of the second man named Gable in the finals?
Standing next to Austin.
Yeah, there you go. Man,
Hugging and crying.
it was pretty wild. I went back and watched it on mute, watched the finals on mute, just so I could watch it from a technique standpoint and not have like the fanfare. And Gable misses the foot. If he gets to that foot, if he stuffs the head, first of all, but if he stuffs the head, gets to that foot, there's no takedown whatsoever. But he has it and he lets it go and he loses it. And when he loses it, that was a wrap. That was it. So, but I mean, I was sitting there like, there's time on the clock. He can still get up and get out. But when that wasn't completed, just like, that's it. Like, this just seriously happened.
Yeah, I think he was kind of resigned to it once he went down. I don't think there was much of an attempt to.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fuck, that happened.
Yep.
But overtime would have been pretty cool.
Overtime would have been
He would have
dope.
got an escape.
Would have
Yeah.
been dope. Would have been so awesome.
So we get blast doubled off the
yeah.
Yeah,
stage.
then Hendricks takes him down again. Oh man, that would have been cool.
Yeah. That would have.
It was tough because like I don't remember, it was the end of the second period maybe when he thought he got a takedown, but was pretty clearly a couple.
I don't think
seconds
he
late.
actually thought he had.
No. Yeah. Okay. Well,
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he actually thought he had that. I think he needed a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought.
He needed to wake up. He was not ready for a fight. He had, and to his credit, he didn't need to be ready for a fight for the last 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
sure.
no one's fought him in 3 years. He just beat the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
And now he was in a fight and he recognized it too late. That's it, And I hate to say that because it's clearly very diminishing to how amazing this accomplishment is to Wyatt Hendrickson. He earned it. He went out, he got it done. He was David against Goliath and did his job. So credit to him, man. I gotta listen to the song that he came out to. I guess that's an important song to him. I feel like if I listen to it, maybe I'll drive faster. Be a better
I didn't even
lover.
notice
Maybe
notice
don't
what
listen
song
to
it was.
I don't know.
I
I'm
was
just
busy
saying.
focused on the flag and that confrontation.
It was Copperhead Road, some country song.
Copperhead.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not sure what the significance is. Maybe he just likes it. I don't know.
There's some snakes on that road, I guess. Maybe it's dangerous.
Let's jump
Find out.
to the team race. Penn State ends up winning, locking things up with Van Ness's pin on the backside. And I saw, I know I've mentioned Bo Nickel a couple of times tonight while we're recording. I saw Bo Nickel mention, no one is talking about the fact that Penn State broke their own record. And it's
Did
it's
they
your
end up
own
breaking
doing.
the record?
What's that?
They did break the record?
Yeah. 177 points.
Fuck yeah! I said they would. I didn't know they did either. And I'm
Yeah.
fucking in media.
Yeah, they did. But that's what I'm saying.
Sorry to swear as much at this point in the podcast.
It's a footnote. It's a footnote to everything else that went on. I mean, I think people are celebrating Nebraska and the run that they had because it wasn't expected. I think everybody went into this tournament like we've been calling you the best Penn State team ever basically all year. So all you can do is underperform at this point. And even though when it came to the number of champs they had, they underperformed because most people thought that they were going to have 6 of them. And they didn't.
I'm already disgusted by this conversation. I agree with Bo. This is bullshit. The fact that I didn't know is ridiculous. I
didn't know
care
that?
how many champs. I had no idea.
Where were you the past 3 days?
I was in a kids tournament for the entire weekend, and I'm sitting here, I'm watching the finals. Like, I'm sorry I didn't know, but I probably should have known. This is pretty insane. Not only did they match the 10 All-Americans that hadn't happened until now, but they beat their own record as far as tournament points. This is singly the greatest team of all time, and it's not debatable.
Yes.
Their Saturday was insane. Like seeing the run they went through on the backside, getting bonus point after bonus point after bonus point.
I'm talking to you. Give me credit.
You know why? Kevin. You know why it's overshadowed? Because of Gable losing to Hendrickson. That is the biggest storyline of all of it.
Yeah.
And Nebraska having an obscene tournament.
Certainly, but all of the headlines wanted to talk about the steroids and the political nature of it. Yes, everyone is talking about what Meyer Shapiro said about steroids in Penn State, and they're on the defense of accusations that were thinly veiled. And then on top of that, for Penn State in all of this, they were on political shows, not sports shows, to talk about all of these things, as well as was Wyatt Hendrickson. They were both on, like, Carter Sirachi was on Fox News. Wyatt Hendrickson was on Fox News, a political news network, not Fox Sports. Gable Steveson and David Taylor. David Taylor was on Ariel Helwani's show, and Gable was on Pat McAfee, sports shows that people pay attention to, right? So, like, the Penn State and all of it got drowned out by the politics that they were part of Carter going and meeting President Trump, of Hendrickson saluting President Trump. And the footnote of them breaking the team points was because it was an expectation. So if they didn't do it, people would have talked about it. It was the amount of people, and we talked about it on here, the amount of people that said they're probably going to break the record, and they have, and how many of their guys were slotted to make the finals going in. 8 of their 10, 9 of their 10 just about were slotted to just make the finals that were seeded top 2. So they were supposed to do all of the things that they were doing. So most people were just like, yeah, Penn State's going to do a Penn State thing again, and they're going to break the record, and they're the best team ever, and this, that, whatever. So that's why it's a footnote, because all of these other storylines have come out since the end of the NCAA tournament that has overshadowed them breaking their own record. It's not that they don't deserve the praise, but that's why.
Supposed to is very different than actually doing, right? Like, that's the whole.
Yeah, but everybody is numb to their accomplishments at this point. It is, and I hate to say it that way, but everybody is numb to it.
Sure.
They are numb to them being that good.
I'm going to accept a hell of a lot of blame for simply not counting, right? Like, that's what it would have taken for me to have understood this before getting into this call to begin with, right? It's going like, oh, what was last year versus this year? One is greater than the other. I didn't do that, and part of it is because, like, the narrative was clearly not on that, and that sucks. Like, I'm really mad. I'm going to make sure I put this out there as frequently and as loudly as I can. God, I don't know.
But like I said,
I guess the thing that's scary to me is like, and we want people paying attention to wrestling. We want all this stuff. It sucks. Like when it gets involved with all the bullshit, like I just sometimes I'm like, you know what I like? I like talking about wrestling with my friends that like wrestling, right?
literally
That's
this
fun.
show.
Yeah. I love this. I don't
Yeah.
want to deal with the anyway.
All the other headlines overshadowed it, and then we went right into transfer portal. So it's just been like, and like I said, this is not a
having
knock
the
on
transfer
Penn State
portal
being
like
good.
immediately open doesn't help anything. It doesn't
It's open before the
allow
season
for a
ends.
time of it doesn't allow for a time for celebration for what they just accomplished. Like it's immediately changing the narrative to, oh, this is what's happening next season. And like I said it earlier today, like I was hoping, that was a long week. That was a lot of hours. Maybe I'll get some rest this week. That's not happening because transfer portal's insane. And we moved immediately into that and having all these stories. And it's wild.
Yeah, even last week's show, we talked about the race for second place. So that's what everyone was focused on to begin with. Nebraska balled out. They had a great tournament. And it was like, yeah, I'm guilty of it too. Maybe a little sick of talking about Penn State, how good they are. Like, yeah, we know they're freaking good. They're the best team ever. But like, who else was really good this weekend? What individuals, what teams? I think there's other stories to discuss as well.
And that's why in the comments of last week's show, there were people saying, if you listen to these guys, you wouldn't think that Penn State's even winning. And it's like, no, that is not the case whatsoever on what we're talking about. It's the fact that we're talking about other teams because we've gotten to the point now where Penn State at one point in the season, every single one of their guys was ranked top 5. Every single one of them was in the top 5 in their weight classes, and they were the number 1 team in both tournament and dual meet rankings. So the expectation of them to come in and place 10 guys at the tournament, while it was a feat that no one really saw coming, because I didn't even have Braden Davis placing. I had all the other guys placing. I had 9 of 10. I had Braden Davis, who was banged up and didn't know what to expect from him because we had seen him kind of implode last year and didn't know what we were going to get. 9 of 10. So now they go 10 of 10 and they break the record, which we had already thought they were going to do in the first place.
Yes.
So that's why it's like, shit, all these Penn State storylines are getting brushed over because we're celebrating the fact that for the first time ever, Nebraska had 2 champs since 1990 something or 1980 something. And they placed second, which is overperforming on all these other teams. So it's not a knock on Penn State that they're that damn good that that their accomplishments are now overshined. It's the fact that they're breaking their own records now.
Yeah.
And
I really wish
become
that I had
accustomed
2
to it.
platforms where I've been saying this for the entire fucking season.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, but we literally talked about it every single week where it's a race for second wherever Penn State is. I mean, the event that I was at, they lost 1 match the entire day, and that was O'Toole beating
I don't believe
Haynes.
you.
So like,
oh, okay.
like they went 20-0 on day 1. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
And everybody was like, holy shit, they went 20-0. And then day 2, they didn't. But I just feel like they have been so great that everybody's like, yeah, we just expect them to do this now every single year. And it's bad on our part because we should discuss that more, but we're also trying to make sure that we're not just sitting here having people listen to Penn State homers, which if you looked at our comments, you would think that we hate Penn State and we hate Messenbrink because we try to give and Iowa because we try to give shine to other teams.
That's me. That's fair.
So it just kind of is what it is. But yeah, they broke the record. 10 All-Americans broke their own record. They deserve the shine. They deserve all of it. I just think that on this particular show, we talk about the Nebraska in all of it, the Ohio State in all of it, the Oklahoma State, the Minnesotas, the Max McAnallys that, are on the scene as well as the 10 All-Americans that wear the white belt around their waist.
I can't wait. I'm going to glaze them up on Blood Round next week. Don't worry about that.
They deserve it. They certainly do deserve it. but it's also, that's why I also would love to see them celebrate these things a bit more and have a little bit more fun with it instead of, you know, Kale doing his post tournament interview and talking about, I can't wait to get back to the room on Monday. It's like, you just accomplished something. Talk about it. Right. But I
Think
know
Suriano's still down there?
that's not how he's wired. No, he's in Arizona. He's in,
Ah,
no, he's in California.
Handsome
who
too.
knows where he really is?
Yeah. Suriano's in California. That is where he is. I don't know if he's still wrestling or not. I have no idea.
I feel like the biggest accomplishment he had wasn't necessarily breaking his own record, but by getting an All-American at 125 pounds again.
Yeah.
We did it! Turns out that was the secret sauce.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he gets a 2-time world champ the next day. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then flips a guy from Virginia Tech. So
Yeah.
that happened. But hey, props to NC State being the only ACC team to place in the top 10.
Yeah, they wrestled great. I mean, Trumbull fighting through a torn ACL to get on the podium is pretty damn impressive.
It is.
Um,
It is.
Maddie Singleton, like the
Man.
last month of the season, has just figured it out, and that's the Maddie that I think we were expecting coming in, and it's pretty cool to see him getting to that point and getting through those matches.
Yeah, agreed. Well, gentlemen, we've been talking for a long time, and I talked a lot tonight because I haven't talked to anybody about wrestling in a while, so I was pretty excited to do it.
It was greatly appreciated on my end, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Hey,
Anyone who has any comments against that can,
they hit me up.
it
is what it is. It is
I'll
what
find
it is.
you.
But they can kind of rejoice because this is essentially the end of the Intermat Wrestling Podcast. We may do one more show and let you know where you can find us talking about wrestling. But that's why we all had nice little drinks tonight to celebrate the fact that we had a pretty awesome season talking about wrestling. And it's been great to literally listen and talk with you guys about wrestling, whether it is being recorded or we're on Twitter talking in our group or whatever it is. So for our listeners, we will let you know where we're going, what's going to happen, whether there's a brand new platform, whatever it is that the four of us will be discussing wrestling on. But there's a couple of things in the works, and when that happens, we will certainly let you know. But gentlemen, honestly, it's been a great season. I love talking with you guys. The Twitter group isn't going anywhere. We're going to continue to discuss things secretly, obviously. Hopefully we get a chance to continue working together in next season. But no, I honestly greatly appreciate all the expertise and all the info and the connections and the relationships that you guys bring to not only this show, but like I said, our groups, our group chats and things that we bring. So I appreciate it.
I can't tell you what it's like talking to people in the wild about wrestling and how it's just never on the same level as this, guys. It's just so much fun here. Really appreciate you guys so much and love you. And we'll see where we end up at after this.
Curse,
not goodbye. See you later.
Yeah, it's not goodbye. It's see you later. We curse, we drink, we talk about wrestling. That's just how it's gonna go whenever we're all on camera together. So again, we appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all the different trash talk. But you guys can find us on Twitter. We're not too far. Our tweets are out there if you want to go harass Robbie for any of his non-political takes, or if you want to talk shit
or
to
any of my anti-Iowa ones,
or any
as
of the
well.
anti-Iowa ones. But if you want to talk shit to any of us, hit us up on Twitter. That's where we will be. But we will certainly let you know what the new platform is in the coming days or weeks. But we just kind of need a break from all of you, to be completely honest, calling us homeless or whatever else. So we're gonna take a break. And
no one tweets at me. Get at me, bitches.
Yeah, we will see you on social media, and maybe the next time here on a podcast yet to be named. So appreciate it. Another great season. See you then.